want to talk about this idea of the timeline split and the separation of worlds. And if you are someone who is finding yourself a little bit concerned about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my loved ones, to my friends, to my colleagues, this video is for you. Hey friends, it's Amar, and I have another video for you. I hope that your month is off to a great start as we are racing towards the end of this calendar year. And even though this video has a timestamp on it and I'm speaking in, mid-December of 2024, this message is evergreen. As always, if this video has found you, no matter when it has found you, know that this is the right time for you to receive this information and this message. And I'm happy that you are here. Today, I want to talk about what so many people are talking about right now, this timeline split or the separation of worlds. I've been talking a lot about the New Earth timeline. I've been talking a lot about the Ascension timeline, and there's many videos here on my channel that you can check out. There's one specifically called Your New Earth Timeline, also perhaps the December Ascension report you might find interesting. And if you appreciate like audio visual components, which there are some of those today, you might also want to check out my video called The Ascension Column. All of those are going to, I think, continue to expand the conversation around the Ascension and the New Earth timeline, continue to inform and hopefully give you a little bit of insight, a little bit of information that can help you to make sense of it from a way that is practical. I am not here to say that I am right and anybody else is wrong. I think this whole process of Ascension and the New Earth experience and this timeline that we are now definitely in the midst of and are walking that path consciously. There's a whole lot of ways to interpret this information. What I always say is take what resonates, whatever lands in the body as truth, whatever feels like, yeah, I like that idea, or I understand that concept, or that's inspiring or enlightening to me. Take that and let everything else go. Just trust your process, trust the path that's before you, and trust that if you were guided to this video, there's a reason. And I am not here, again, to stand as an expert on anything. I am sharing my perspective and my own lived experience as a human who is also going through the ascension process in real time, in physicality, as all humans are at this moment. I want to talk about this idea of the timeline split and the separation of worlds. And if you are someone who is finding yourself a little bit concerned about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my loved ones, to my friends, to my colleagues, this video is for you, because what I hope to do is hopefully ease some of your anxiety, answer some of your questions, and like I said, just shine a light on this whole subject of Ascension, the New Earth timeline, and the separation of worlds, the separation of realities from my perspective. So I think the first thing that is important to talk about when we're talking about this division of realities and the separation of worlds or this new earth or ascension experience, this is a process. This is not about flipping a switch and suddenly we get instant gratification, suddenly pop, we're in some new level of reality and everything that we knew is gone and all of these people are no longer a part of a reality and suddenly we're in this new world, in this new reality, like someone just turned on a light switch and everything changes in the blink of an eye. This is about evolution and expansion in a way that is sustainable. The reason that that is so important is because we are currently going through something that has never been done on this planet before, and that is ascension while we are still maintaining the integrity of the physical human body. My guides told me years ago in the beginning, they said, Amar, basically what you are doing is it's like you are riding a bicycle and you are deciding to rebuild your bicycle into a sports car while you are still riding the bicycle. So this is no small feat. This is nothing to underestimate the amount of care that this whole plan and this whole experience is built upon. The idea of ascension and the new earth reality is not exclusive. I have said this a million times. I will say it a million more. It's not only for the good. It's not only for the special. It's not only for the awakened. The Ascension and the New Earth timeline is available to all who are ready, who are willing, who are prepared. And ultimately, every being is going to ascend at some point. Some of us are going through it right now in our physical bodies. Some of us have decided that we're going to check out and we're not going to do the whole physical ascension thing. Some of us are going to do the ascension thing while we are in spirit after we have left the body. Some of us are going to do it in the next lifetime or the next layer of reality. Trust that whatever is happening according to the will and the plan of that individual's soul, of that individual's higher self, and that individual's life path and plan for this ascension experience. Some people came to play the bad guy, or to play the unawakened one, or to play the one who doesn't get it, or to play the one who's never going to awaken, because in a dualistic polarity reality, someone has to be the awakened one and someone has to be the sleeping one. I'm going to talk more about this idea of this kind of split in terms of perspectives in just a little bit. Basically, the important thing to understand is that this is something that is happening with great care and great deliberate effort, because we want the physical body to still be intact. If we were to go from a very low dense 3D experience and instantly, flip up into a very high frequency 5D experience, the human body would not be able to sustain that. The human body would not be able to handle that. I mean, think about it. We can't even fly in an airplane without having the cabin pressurized. We can't walk on the bottom of the ocean or dive into the depths of the ocean without some sort of, pressurized air and breathing apparatus. So to think that we could sustain and survive something like going from a low density 3D experience to a high frequency 5D experience instantaneously without it being a stair-step process is ludicrous. The human body in its current form is just not prepared for that. That's why we have been going through this very slow and deliberate ratcheting up and increase in the frequencies a little bit at a time. We're also doing it in the same way and in the same process as the planet is doing it, so that we have a stable foundation to stand on, so that our bodies can go through what we are calling the ascension process, which, for many people activates what we would call the ascension symptoms, right? The ringing in the ear, the intestinal stuff, the emotional upheaval, the energy fluctuations, the changes in diet, the awakening experience in and of itself is when the human body is starting to come to awakening. The soul and the spirit always knows what it is. It always knows the truth of who you are. The bulk of our awakening experience is so the physical human self can come to the remembrance and the understanding and ultimately the integration and the embodiment of these truths and of these frequencies, while maintaining mental stability, emotional stability, energetic stability, and physical stability. So when we talk about this increase in the frequencies, think of climbing a mountain. When you're standing at the base of the mountain, looking up to the peak, you're thinking, how in the heck am I going to get up there? There is no way on earth I'm ever going to make it up there, or it looks really daunting, or it looks really hard and really challenging. And that's because it is. We've been climbing the mountain very deliberately, one step at a time, one layer of frequency at a time, doing it at the same time as the planet, so that when she ascends, she raises her frequency a little bit. Then she stabilizes. That allows us to raise our frequency to match her, and then we stabilize, and then the cycle continues. She moves up a little bit and stabilizes, then we move up a little bit and stabilize. So we're doing it in partnership with the planet. This was something that my guides talked about in the video that I posted, Your New Earth Timeline. I'll put the link here. I'll put the link here. I'll also put the link in the description so you can watch that one. And this is a channeled message that I shared for my guides. And they said, basically, you are vibrating now at the same frequency as the planet, because we are moving through these bandwidths of frequency into a higher reality while still rooted in the physical plane. We had to come to a way to match the frequency of the planet, because Earth is also going through her ascension. And those who have chosen the new Earth timeline and to be stewards of the new Earth and to work with the natural, organic, divine systems, we are now fluctuating and vibrating at the same frequency of the Earth. This is all about the interdependency component that the new Earth and the ascension experience offers. This isn't about codependency. In terms of what we are working with, it is humans, spirit, or I should say ascending humans, spirit, and the planet. And we're all three kind of working in partnership in this interdependent way to ensure that those of us who are going to inhabit the new Earth in the physical form have an Earth to inhabit. We need to be in a physical reality that matches our physical energetic experience. This is why so many people are having such a difficult time. This is why we look around the planet and see so much chaos and so much craziness, because the Earth is raising her frequency. She is ascending in vibration. And those people who are still locked into a lower frequency perspective, they can't hang. The two are not simpatico. They can't, it's like If you think about a harmonious song, you hear the harmonies, it feels good, it sounds good, it's a pleasurable experience to sing it and to listen to it. If you think of discordant harmonies where people are off pitch or off key, that doesn't feel good, that doesn't sound good. It's not fun to sing, it's not fun to experience, it's not fun to listen to, and it's kind of the same thing. Well, actually, it's exactly the same thing when you are on a planet that is vibrating at a frequency that is higher than the one you carry within you. That's going to make you feel a little chaotic and a little bit crazy. That's why we're seeing all of this upheaval, because the higher frequencies are the things that begin to rattle and shake the foundation of those lower frequency institutions, people, collectives, group identities, group beliefs, and belief systems. Those are the things that will not sustain. Those are the things that cannot stand. Anything that is rooted in or built upon a lower frequency is not going to sustain. They're not going to survive in physical form. It's time for that ending to happen. It's time for the collapse to occur so that things can be reborn in a higher frequency from a higher perspective and rooted into the new earth reality in the Ascension timeline, which is all about cooperative living and interdependent relationships. So back to that idea of climbing the mountain, in a nutshell, most of you previous to this whole awakening and this whole ascension experience was rooted in a lower frequency. And it always takes a lot more effort to project yourself up and out than it does to come from a higher perspective and to project yourself down. Think of it this way. It takes a whole lot more energy to climb the mountain than it does to roll down the mountain. A lot of why so many of us were experiencing all of this physical exhaustion and this sense of depletion, and sometimes it even manifested itself as sort of this idea of hopelessness or depression or sort of existential dread, was because we were constantly flipping and flopping between realities. We were going from a lower, denser, like let's just say 5D and below experience. And then we were trying to flip back up to something that was above 3D. So it was like, okay, 1 minute I'm in the higher frequency, then I'm back down in the lower frequency, then I'm back up, then I'm back down. And this flipping and flopping was something that was a part of the process, and it was exhausting. I mean, raise your hand and let me know if the comments, if that was your experience, especially from like 2019 to really the end of 2023. We were in this constant state of fluctuation and oscillation going back and forth between higher frequency and lower frequency. A lot of this was so that our bodies and our systems could get acclimated to it, right? It's like if you're climbing a mountain, you don't go from base camp all the way to the top just in one shot. You have to slowly acclimate yourself to the higher altitude. You have to slowly acclimate yourself to the higher frequencies so that the body can handle it, so that the body is prepared and can still breathe and still function and still work correctly. And that's why we had to do a lot of this flipping and flopping and fluctuation so that the body could get used to it. A lot of this was also tied to the fact that the planet was on her journey of stabilizing herself into a higher frequency. Again, we are in an interdependent relationship with her. Now she is anchored in a higher frequency, and so are we. And it is a lot easier to move back and forth, because think of it, it's like the platform that you stand on has raised. Your new normal and your new set point is just above 3D. Just think of it as 3D and above. And now we're hanging out in these higher frequencies. So it's a lot easier for us, again, to project ourselves from a higher place to a lower place, frequency-wise. It's a whole lot easier than to go from the lower frequency and ratchet up to the high frequency, especially when your awakening first begins, because you're carrying all of this density in your body. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, all contribute to your frequency output. And if you're in a lower asleep perspective, victimhood consciousness, still in the depths of your trauma, your pain, and your suffering, you're not necessarily in a high frequency. And it's really hard to hang out in a frequency or in a space that's really high because you haven't done your work. You're not prepared. You're not ready for it. So I want to just give you kind of a visual of what I'm talking about, right? Because I know a lot of you are more visual people. So hopefully some of these scribbles that I'm going to offer you now will help you get a better understanding of what it is that I'm speaking about. So if you think about, again, the mountain, right? If I'm climbing the mountain and I'm going up here, this is a lot more work than it is for me to be at this point and go down. So if we think of this as 3D And then everything up here is 3D plus. This is just, a very simple way to look at it. It's just, again, giving us an opportunity to wrap our head around it. When we're down in the 3D experience, like when we're starting to awaken, or, maybe we're one of the ones who have decided that they're not going to go through the awakening experience this time, we're in this density. We're in the lower frequency. We've got a whole bunch more pressure kind of coming down on us. So it's a lot harder to see. It's a lot harder to think. It's a lot harder to comprehend ourselves beyond the intensity and the density of the 3D human experience. But as you climb in frequency, let's say maybe this is 4D, then we're up here at 5D. As you climb in frequency, suddenly now you can look back and you can see through a larger perspective. When I'm up here on the top of the mountain, it's much easier to make sense of where I was. When you're on the bridge, this is what I call the bridge moment. When you're on the bridge from the old reality to the new reality, it never makes sense on the bridge. Nobody knows what's going on the bridge. On the bridge, everyone's looking around going, do you know what's going on? Where are you headed? Where are you from? Where are you going? I don't know. You also don't camp out on the bridge. You have moments of stopping and resting and replenishing yourself on the bridge, but the bridge is not where you set up your new reality. It's not where you set up your new camp or build your new home. When you're on the journey from a lower frequency to a higher frequency, you are on the bridge. This is a lot of what the ascension process is. And these oscillations of the sine wave, the oscillations of the frequency, you're up and then you're down, and then you're up and then you're down. But over time, once you reach this perspective, now you're at the top of the mountain. Now you can look back and you can see much more clearly what it was that you just came from. It's like hindsight is always 20/20. So from your higher perspective, it's a lot easier to make sense of the journey than it is when you're down here just starting out and you're, again, at the base of the mountain. You have no idea what it's going to be like when you reach the top. And when you reach the top, suddenly now you have this remembrance and this experience of a more holistic context and perspective to say, oh, I get it now. So once you're up on the higher frequency, and this is another thing that I want to talk about, the slow expansion and elevation of the frequency that the planet and humanity has been going through in partnership interdependently. A lot of this has been so that now the bulk of your awareness is rooted in 5D. The bulk of you as an entirety of a being is rooted now in 5D. The separation of, your higher self or your guides being up here in 5D and you still stuck in this, limited consciousness and limited awareness, there's a big gap between these two in experience. Again, it's really easy to project yourself from a higher perspective to a lower perspective. And when you're in a higher frequency, you can project yourself down into a lower frequency, still connect, still be present, still engage, even if the majority of your consciousness is still rooted up in 5D. So now I want to talk about kind of this experience of the flipping and flopping that we were all going through. Again, as we were ascending and over the past couple of years, since like late 2019 up until late 2023, we were climbing the mountain to get over. It was a lot of energy to get over to 5D, and then we did it, and then we had to climb the mountain and go all the way back down, and then all the way back up, and then all the way back down. It was exhausting, it was depleting, but this is what was allowing us to slowly expand ourselves, to slowly acclimate our physical body and our physical systems to the frequency of the fifth dimension or 3D and above, and kind of get used to kind of, hanging out here, get used to rooting ourselves in here and kind of making a new home for ourselves up here. So now that we are coming from this perspective, it's kind of like a door has opened. Think of it this way. Now, rather than having to go all the way back over the top of the mountain energetically, we can just kind of pass through. A door has opened. Really, over the past couple of months, there's a portal. And so it is through this portal that we are going to continue to engage with those who are still in a lower frequency or a lower dimension. And we don't have to work quite as much to get back to the people, our loved ones, our family, our friends, our colleagues that are still in a lower frequency experience. Now, those who are still rooted in 3D are going to have to go through the experience of acclimating themselves, their physical systems, their mind, their body, their emotions and their energy to the higher frequency. But once they do the work of essentially more and more, think of it's like a set of scales, and you're just moving one grain of rice at a time from one side to the other. That's kind of what we've been doing. So over time, eventually those scales tip. And now the majority of me is just over here in 5D. And yes, there's still going to be people who are going to remain in this 3D experience. But once you're up here and this is home, now I can pass through this portal and it's really, really easy. I don't have to go through all of this acclimation because I have muscle memory, I have new neural pathways, I have cellular memory, and my body has also been attuned to these higher frequencies so I can hang out in these higher frequencies. So now I can kind of pass through the mountain of ascension, if you want to think of it that way, when I'm in these higher frequencies. But again, those who are still in a lower frequency are going to have to do their work too. Everybody has to go through the ascension process. Yes, everyone goes through it in their own way, but ultimately the goal is so that when I'm up here, I can still kind of come and go at will. You can project yourself from a higher frequency from one location down to another, and that's how we are able to still engage with our friends, our family, our loved ones, and those who still need us, those who we are serving for a time, who are still down in these lower frequencies. So what I want to talk about now is kind of the difference between those who have chosen the New Earth Ascension timeline and those who have chosen the timeline of chaos and separation. Like I was saying earlier, those of us who have chosen the New Earth Ascension timeline are now rooted into the frequency of the planet, and our Trinity, this idea of the Trinity, is going to start showing up more and more, this trifurcation of realities. There's the frequency of Earth, who is our partner. There's the frequency of us, and we are a partner with Earth. And then there's the frequency of Spirit, who is always present and always in partnership with us. I have an image that I'm going to share with you. Hang on one sec. So this is what I'm just calling like the trinality for those who have chosen the Ascension New Earth experience. So we have the frequency of Earth, right? She is vibrating at her frequency, which we are also matching. Then we have the awakened embodied humans, those who know themselves as an aspect of the divine, those who know themselves as a vessel for the light and the truth and the word, those of us who are here to serve and to help and to support and actively build the New Earth experience. And then we have Spirit, who is always present, who is always in the mix. And this is our Trinity relationship. This is our trinality and our trifurcation experience. And yes, Spirit, the human, and Earth are all on their own path and sort of on their own timeline, because Spirit would include your higher self, your guides, your angels, your helpers. But we are all moving towards the same end goal. We are all moving towards the liberation of humanity and all of her inhabitants and all living things and the well-being of all of them. So this is just an image to give you kind of an idea of what that experience is going to be for those who have chosen the Ascension and New Earth timeline. Now, for those who have chosen the chaos timeline, the density timeline, the separation timeline, there's a whole bunch of ways you can talk about it. This is a visual which may help you understand. So for them, we could just call them the sleeping human or the unawakened human. That's not a judgment. That's not denigrating them. That's just their state of being. They still have not awakened to the remembrance of the truth of who and what they are. And their experience as a sleeping human is they are grounding and rooting into authority outside of them. This is the trick. We, on the New Earth Ascension timeline, have rooted and grounded into the Earth as our partner in this experience and in this chapter of our ascension. She is ascending at the same time. So our partner is also moving towards the same goal that we have. Authority, for those who have chosen the chaos timeline, the separation timeline, they separate themselves from their inner authority. They separate themselves from their truth, from their sovereignty, essentially, and they give that power to the authority figures and the authoritarian systems outside of them. So their frequency and their experience is tied to the authority. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to really stop and think about it for a minute to realize, like, oh, if I'm aligning myself with the will of these authoritarian systems, is that the direction I want to go? If I'm aligning myself with an agenda, whether it's hidden in plain sight or explicit, Is that really the experience that I want to have? I get it. Many people still aren't awake to the truth of who they are. They think that the systems outside of them that tell them what to do, where to go, how to be happy, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, they still believe in that. So that's what they invest themselves into. That's what they root themselves into. So that is going to be their experience. They are going to heal and expand and evolve and accelerate at the rate of authority because that's what they have rooted themselves into. And if you have tied your well-being to a body that is greater than yours, you cannot accelerate beyond that rate. So because we have connected and have agreed to interdependently grow and evolve with the planet at the same time, we are on an ascension trajectory that is much more rapid, that is accelerating and raising in frequency. Those who have tied themselves and rooted themselves in partnership with an external authority, they are going to devolve at that rate and decelerate, or sort of lower their frequency at the same rate. And the sleeping human and spirit is always present. Spirit is always in all things, but that's the deal with the free will reality like the one that we live in here on the planet. Spirit can't make you do anything. Spirit, it can try to get your attention. Spirit can create experiences that are increasingly uncomfortable or difficult or challenging in the hopes that you will wake up. And a lot of people are going to wake up, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But spirit can't make you wake up. Spirit can't force you to choose the Ascension New Earth timeline. Spirit says you get to choose and decide what you believe about yourself, about your world, about your reality, and your beliefs will create your experience. Okay, so now I want to talk about, actually, I want to share with you my screen again. Hang on one sec. Okay, so I know a lot of people have this concern that those who they believe, family, friends, loved ones, people that they're close to, just people on the planet in general, there's this concern that what is going to happen to those who aren't awakening or those who haven't chosen the Ascension or the New Earth timeline? What's going to happen to them? I think there's a couple of things that I want to share with you. Number one, we just do not know. We have no way of knowing what a soul has agreed to do, to be, to experience for any given lifetime. There are those beings who have decided that they are not going to go through the ascension. This is how I want to break it down for you, because again, in a duality consciousness, such as what 3D is, the whole point in transcending the density of a duality or polarity consciousness is to realize that you are dual by nature, right? You are masculine and feminine. You have been the good, you've been the evil, you've been the victim, you've been the perpetrator, you've been the sinner and the saint. And once you accept your shadow, once you accept your darkness as an inherent aspect of all that you are, because we are here to mirror God itself. God, all things exist within spirit. All things exist within God. So in order for spirit to be the absolute, all things have to be permitted to exist within the field of spirit. Otherwise, spirit is not the absolute. So we take our cue from that and we realize that throughout the arc of our soul's lifetime, our soul's journey, we have, from that soul perspective, been the good guy, the bad guy, the sinner, and the saint. We too, also in our human lifetime, in this lifetime, I don't know anybody who can say, oh no, I've only been good. I don't know anybody who would say, oh no, I've always been bad. There's light and dark in everything. And in order to transcend the separation of duality, you have to accept your darkness. Once you accept that darkness and that shadow, then it is integrated. And once you go through that integration process, now you can pop up into the higher frequencies. Again, at the top of the mountain, you see all that you have been and all that you have gone through, and you understand there's a reason for the good, there's a reason for the bad, there's a reason for the joy, a reason for the sadness, the sickness, the health, all of it. In a reality such as 3D, there has to be a balance. So if we think about 20%, and these are just numbers that I'm using for an example, don't hold me to my math here. But if we think about 20% of humans right now, let's just say, are the awakened ones who are on the cutting edge of reality. We are the ones forging the path. We are the way showers. We are the light bringers. We are the earth workers and the light workers. We are the ones who are here to step out of the box of limited society, to step out of the box, actually demolish the box of limited thinking and limited living, and begin to forge the new path. Then if there's 20% of us on that side, there must also be an additional 20% who are not going to awaken, who are going to stubbornly go to the end in resistance and denial, and you're going to pry their limited perspective from their cold, dead hands. This 20%, from my perspective, are actually the ones who are the strongest from a soul perspective. Because imagine to live your entire life as someone who is frustrated or angry or afraid, or who is persecuting, or who's perpetuating violence and atrocities on the planet in the name of some external force or authority or deity, those who perpetuate these horrible things in the name of some system. This 20%, they are holding the space so that there is a balance, right? If we think about the fulcrum on a teeter-totter, this 20% of the light, we are the ones who are on this side balancing. The 20% of the dark are the ones on this side who are balancing on that side of the spectrum. So I have a great deal of compassion for those beings who have chosen to inhabit this timeline, because from a soul's perspective, doing a lot of the things that this group of people have done is horrible. I can't imagine living that life. There are those who have just agreed to play the role of the dark hat, and that is their job. That is what they agreed to do. And it doesn't necessarily make it easier if we find ourselves connected to someone who's in this group. But what we can take is a little bit of comfort in knowing that they are doing the role that they agreed to do. And I think from my perspective, that opens up a very deep well of compassion and understanding for those who have agreed to just walk around on the planet as an evil, horrible, awful, unhappy person. Now, what's interesting here, and where I think the wild card is this 60%. It is my belief, and what I've been getting from my guides, is that the majority of humans right now are in the middle. The majority of humans are still in the process of kind of figuring it out. Some of the 60% are still over on what we could say the dark end of the spectrum. Some of the 60% are moving towards the light and beginning to awaken. But it's this 60% that over the course of this process and this progress of the next few years, these are the ones that are going to tip the scale. The bulk of this 60% are people who are going to awaken. Some of them are awakening right now. Some of them will awaken a little bit later. Some of them are going to awaken at the last possible second to still be a part of this new earth experience over here. But it is this 60% that over the course of the next couple of years, I really get the sense that over the course of the next 2 years, with the shift of Pluto into Aquarius, we are going to see things being revealed that are going to blow our minds. Even those of us who consider ourselves to be awake and aware are going to hear things and see things happening that we're going to be like, what the WTF was that? So take some solace and some peace and understanding that as factual evidence, because remember that diagram of the Trinity that I showed you, where it's authority, the sleeping human, and spirit. Those who are still waiting to see it on the evening news, those who are still waiting to hear it come out of the newscaster's mouth, or read it in the newspaper, or hear it on the radio from the official sources, once they see actual factual evidence, and it's already started to come out, if you're paying attention to what's happening with these governmental bodies and the information and the reports that they're revealing, this is what is going to shift the perspective and shift most of this 60% over into this category and this end of the spectrum. Because once it's factual, government authorized, seal of approval, yep, as this information continues to come out, as we begin to make contact with our star family and those outside of the planet, outside of Earth, we are going to see this 60% start to wake up. Here's why it is so challenging for so many people to awaken. In order to awaken, you have to be willing to abandon your entire worldview. In order to make it out of that 60% of those who are still coming to awareness and coming to awakening, you have to be willing to challenge everything that you have been taught. You have to be willing to confront the fact that you have been lied to, you have been deceived, things have been hidden intentionally and on purpose. Those of us who are in the awakened group, those of us who are on the front lines, forging the path to the new earth experience, we came in knowing that we would be the ones to instantaneously question authority. It's just innate in us. We're like, wait, that is not true. That doesn't make sense. I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. And I'm actually going to be the one to break off from, the core of society and the collective agreement to say, is that really true? Does it have to be like that? Change doesn't happen from the level of the problem. Change always comes from a higher perspective. It is those who are willing to question what is being presented as the consensus reality to say, I don't think it has to be like that. I don't want it to be like that. I know there's a different way. I know there's a better way. So, in order to come along on the awakening journey, especially for those who are not a part of that leading edge light worker, earth worker, way shower path, those who are in the majority right now, who are still kind of in the process of coming to awareness, in order for them to awaken, they are going to have to change their entire perspective. They are going to have to eradicate their entire worldview and dismantle the mental construct and the lens that they have viewed the world through for their entire life. That is not easy. It takes a whole lot of courage and a whole lot of strength to be willing to walk that path. I know that you understand what I'm saying because you, as an awakened one, have probably spent a lot of your life on the outside looking in, going, am I the only one who sees this? Am I the only one who doesn't understand what everybody's doing? Am I the only one that thinks that the way that the majority of humans live their lives is total insanity? So imagine how hard it was for you being an awakened one, especially one who came here with the agreement to be an awakened one. Now multiply that times 1,000. Not only do those who are still asleep have to dismantle their entire worldview, they have to come up with an entire new way of being. They are learning to walk again. It is going back to zero and beginning from there. So this hopefully gives you a little bit of an understanding, maybe a little bit of comfort and a little bit of ease to know that just because someone might be asleep now doesn't mean that they're going to miss the boat. Ascension is not exclusive. The door remains open for anybody who decides that they want to hop on that train and join the party at any time. Yes, we will continue to ascend and realities will continue to separate. But ultimately, what I think it's going to be is it's like if you suddenly decided to move to the other side of the world, right? If I have a friend or family who's in Australia and I'm in the US, probably not going to talk to them that often. It's probably going to take a lot more effort to arrange time where we can communicate face to face or one on one. So think of it that way. It's not that people in the old reality are being punished, it's just what they have chosen. It's not that those who are in the ascended reality of the new earth timeline are being rewarded, it's just what we have chosen. And that separation is going to be gradual. It is going to be a process. It is not going to be like a switch is flipped. And the door will be open for the bulk of the population to awaken. And I get the sense that that 20% who have agreed to be stuck in darkness, they're probably only hanging out with other people who are also stuck in darkness. They're probably only hanging out predominantly with people who are on that same timeline. So chances are you probably don't know anybody who's in that 20% because they are the stabilizers. The 20% of the way showers, the earth workers, and the light workers, we are stabilizing on the light end of the spectrum. Those who are going to refuse to awaken and be stubborn and willful until their last breath, they are stabilizing on the dark end of the spectrum. And we are the two groups that are actually holding the space so that the bulk of the population can go through their experience of awakening and expansion and understanding. So trust the plan, trust that there is a force far greater than any one individual that is orchestrating all of this. This is the energy that keeps the planets orbiting and the solar systems in check and life continuing on from season to cycle, from season to cycle. This energy knows exactly what it's doing. The divine plan has been in action since the beginning. It is all happening in the perfect way, in the perfect order. So just let it unfold. Allow yourself to guide yourself toward, be guided towards your experience and follow the path forward. Because I think the most tragic thing is holding ourselves back in the hopes that we can make someone awaken or force them to awaken when maybe they just aren't here to awaken at all. Thank you for watching. I love you. Have a great day. We'll talk with you soon.